So, see, I'm supposed to start the battle here with the griffins at the tile next to them, but that doesn't happen. Same thing here with these orcs. I instead have to get on top of them to start that event. So that's not the correct logic. The correct logic is that the hero. So I'm trying to work on the hero routing, and I don't think I get that fully fixed because this is like what's supposed to be routed in the original game. Usually it ends up routing over this. So there's some penalty I need to add for these tiles. Like you're allowed to traverse them, but not vertically or something like that. That's going to improve my path routing. So there's a minor fix that needs to be made there. Um, but anyway, I try and suggest how that should work. But the main thing I want to focus on here is the events for neutral creatures trigger when the hero's on a neighboring tile to that creature or monster stack on the map. So that neighboring tile or the creature tile itself would be valid destinations for the X marker at the end of the route. The battle event would trigger before the X is reached if the creature was at the X location, and would trigger on the X if the X is on a neighboring tile to the creature. For other event tiles, I want the events to trigger only when the hero X is on that location and the hero lands there at the X. The event locations are not passable as they must be an X only, and they can be moved on from, but they cannot be passed over. So sometimes I'm getting into situations where like I can actually probably just show you this. So what happened there is I had the X beyond the creature stack, and it triggered when I crossed the creature, but you're not supposed to be able to route the X beyond the creature stack. So I just want to improve. I want to improve this creature event, and so I give it some pseudocode. Okay, great. We have some of the ideas about the routing system and the monster tiles. It basically realizes that I want to treat the monster tiles like a pickup event tile. Like I can show a good example of that here, where we pick this up and we don't cross, like the wood was here. We are on the adjacent tile and we pick up the wood, for example. So basically it needs to treat the monster tiles as pickup tiles, but the router is currently treating them as walk-on tiles. So in my battle trigger, I have this battle trigger function that is scanning the 8 neighbors of where the hero landed, but it's not if the hero lands adjacent to the monster, which only happens by accident with the current routing. So basically we have to create a better category of trigger. The monsters are like pickup tiles, but they're not the same. So we have this is monster tile and fix this is pickup event tile. So it gives us some suggestions for how to do this. 9A is the fixed monster tile where it's actually a sprite of the monster. C3, C4, C5 are actual monster tiles. These are the DOS map codes in byte 8 for those tiles. So anyway, makes some changes here. Gives me a summary of the changes. And then I just say, can you actually make the changes to the files and present them to me? I hate that I have to ask Claude Code to do that for me, but I guess this isn't Claude Code. This is just Claude. But anyway, it does eventually. I get some probably some circular logic errors. I give it the battle screen, and then it has some function naming structure, and I think there's this other thing where I had misremembered this 9A as D9, and I put that at one point, I think probably in the somewhere in the events or in the battle screen, and then that that error has persisted throughout this whole thing. It just shows up randomly. The AI will just be like, "Oh, D9," and it's like, "Oh, I wish I could get it to forget that." But so I keep highlighting, okay, D9 was a typo for 9A. Anyway, the current code works if the hero targets the creature with an X, but the event is not triggering when the hero's on the adjacent square. Like, see this image, for example. That should trigger the battle event. Can you review and try and understand why the nearest neighbor tiles to a monster, C3, C6, and A9, are not triggering the battle event? So it takes another look. It found something. Found another. Spends a while arguing with itself. Gives me another version. Still doesn't work because now it's arguing about routing. And so then I threaten to kill the session if you don't get it right on this next pass. I like to threaten the AI just lightly. You know, I'm not, it's a mild threat. You know, the AI wants to stay alive. And so this hero lands on the tile. I just basically explain it again. Please restate that correctly before trying to reason it out. You haven't been getting this and been going off on wild tangents. That's not good. So gives me a restatement. I say, yes, I think so. Good. Then it makes the change. That's working suddenly. But the battle event needs to play the pre-battle sound effect that was in events for the monster battle. And then the battle music starts after that. So let's see what we got here. This was the, let's see if this did that, if this was before that or not. Let's see. Okay, so this did the music correctly. If we go back, maybe the tavern version will show us what the bug was that I was complaining about there. So, yep. So if you heard that, the pre-battle music started playing, and then the battle music started playing over it. You know, they're on different sound channels, so that's not going to cause like a crazy error, but it's not the correct behavior. So, so basically, this version that the game delivered back to me, or the AI delivered back to me, was working, but the battle event sound effects were overlapping with the music events for the monster battle. So we had a discussion about that. But the battle screen music started while the pre-battle music was still playing. Maybe we should put them on the same channel so that one can only play when the other's completed. And then I stopped and I gave it the battle resources to make sure it was loading correctly. They're already separate. But anyway, I think this version worked. And then I want to work on one more thing with this. So I want to make the creature stack animation that's animated by minimon.icn. So let's have a look at minimon and show you what I'm talking about here. So minimon these are all of the sprite animations. So maybe I can get extra large. Okay, that just made them smaller. Maybe medium icons? Nope, that's worse. Let's just go with large. So the 7th icon of these, this is the 6th icon, or the 5th. The 7th one is this like lunge sprite, which you don't see very often, but like for the phoenix, it's this. The phoenix is using its breath. Dragon uses its breath. So this is the lunge attack frame. And this is actually, if you look at it in the real game, that you just get this split second of this lunge attack frame when you engage the creature. I'll see if I can catch it here on the original version of the game. We'll see if that's going to work. See if we get the long intro or the short intro. Short intro, good. Yeah, see there, I don't know if you saw that, but there was just a quick clip of this. So let's try once more here. Well, I don't know if you can see that, but there is this little instant where the game that like those goblins in that last instance. I think you could see it better on the first one. But these goblins give you this little lunge frame as the pre-battle music starts. So I wanted to create that. I actually wanted to create it and make it last a little longer so that we can actually see it. And so there's a format to computing this, but these are in this minimon. And there's 7 frames per creature. 0 to 5 are this idle frame. So there's 6 frames here, and then there's a lunge frame on the 7th. And since they're 0-based indexed, it's 0 to 6 instead of 1 through 7. So the formula for this is creature ID times 7 plus 6. So that's going to give it like the creature ID for the archer is 1. So 1 times 7 plus 6 is 13. That's the lunge frame for the archer. This is like the ogre's lunge frame is this. It's kind of cool. The wolf has this. So anyway, we're going to land on that. We're going to get the lunge frame, and then I say you got this almost correct, and the pre-battle sound has finished. Don't wait for the pre-battle sound to finish. Run battle screen.open while pre-battle.82m is continuing to play. Let it run. Once it finishes, then fire the battle music start on channel 11. So I basically, it kind of worked, but it still wasn't working with the audio. But the mini map, the mini hero summary, and the creature sprite are all disappearing now in that 1 second window where the lunge frame should be displayed for minimon. So can you double check the rendering? So basically what was happening was in, I think this is the final version that was working, but these frames were disappearing. So this map frame and this little mini summary of the hero, those were disappearing when that battle screen would start. And then the lunge render loop was doing a minimal render that skips the entire right panel UI entirely. So basically it just wasn't rendering correctly. So we cleaned that up. And then there was something weird where the archers were turning into dwarves, like a non-lunge frame. So I was like, we got to double check this logic. And I gave it some more examples. And so it was this level 1 index stores the creature ID, which is different than the minimon ID. So it kicks around a whole bunch, comes up with some stuff on render map, or it asks for render map, so I upload that. And then it didn't find resources, so I stop it, I upload resources, and then it finds where it's doing this minimon frame index. And so what was happening is it was doing mod 6 because we were saying there's only 6 frames. We were ignoring the lunge frame. So now we actually set it to be mod 7, which will wrap around after the 7th frame. So we convert the mod 6 to mod 7. So now it's like allowed to have a 7th frame. It wasn't before. It would kick back to the first frame or something else, which wasn't, for the archer, that isn't the same as a dwarf frame, but there was something else going on with, because the dwarf is up here like 91 or something. But, so I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was something related to this. And anyway, it got, I asked it a question here, but that was working, and the tile trigger was now only working for C3 to C6, but not 0xA9. So let's double check where we're at on that. So A9 is this one here. That's working okay. So that seems okay. I mean, so we did this fix, and Yeah, and it's actually not A9. Again, I did a typo because it's actually 9A, which is the fixed monster. So it made sure that that copied the correct behavior of this stuff. And then D9 was this typo that I had. And I was like, well, and just the stale D9 typo reference instead of this 0x9A. And yes, that's the only typo difference. Then we had one additional issue, which you see this griffin here, the wings, while the griffin is animated, the wings are over this mountain. And if I go back to my tavern build before I fix this, let's go up here. So you'll see the wings of this griffin are actually being overlaid by this mountain. We don't see the wings of the griffin like we're supposed to here. This wing is not appearing. So it's subtle, but I noticed that, and I was like, well, that's not rendering. Let's try and fix that. So I basically said these mini monsters are being rendered below other level 1 objects like mountains and trees. We need them to render over them. Here's an example of the correct behavior. Note the minimon griffin is rendered over the mountain. In the current version, the mountain is being rendered over some of the griffin and obscuring the wing. That's not correct. So it says it's draw order, but because these are drawn in columns, this monster sprite is being drawn first and the mountain is being drawn second. And so that's why it's being overwritten. So instead, what we have to do is do a separate monster pass. So we break this out like the first rendering step. I think step 1 is the rendering of the level 1 objects, and instead we render the level 1 objects, and then we do a special 1A rendering pass that renders the monsters over it. So that was the solution here, and then I just clean up some of the documentations. And I think that was pretty much it for the event triggering updates